Uber's on a charm offensive, launching a campaign aimed at addressing what it describes as myths about the company. And Mastermind Toys has been turned over to new owners. This is after the company filed for creditor protection. This happened in November.
For more on all of this, we're joined live now by Tony Chapman, host of the podcast Chatter That Matters. Tony, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Let's begin with Uber. Why does a powerhouse like Uber need to create a campaign telling people that they're a good company in light of the rift and lawsuit with the city of Toronto? What do you think this is about?
It's exactly what it is. It's a move on the chessboard. Nowadays, with social media, we live with the snackable content, and it feeds our biases, so we become experts. We saw that through the pandemic. Everybody was a medical expert. And so what Uber's doing is they're trying to counter the myths that are created, why Uber's bad, and a lot of it's unfounded. So it's a very smart strategy on their part to take 3 or 4 of their biggest myths and to put it back out to the public and say, this is actually the truth. And in doing so, what they're hoping to do is to get that public opinion back on their side. In the event that the politicians or we sort of go against them, they're going to say, actually, the mass is with us because we're good for traffic. We're good for taking traffic congestion away. We're good for drivers. And I think it's a very smart strategy to counter the seeds of discontent with some positivity and possibility.
And then also, Tony, the conversation picks up next month and then in March with exec and city council once again looking at the impact of Uber on Toronto, with gridlock already a big issue. At the same time, there's an argument that Uber eliminates the picking and choosing of fares or riders that taxi operators take liberty with.
Yeah, I mean, the taxi group is a massive lobbyist. We know that they fund a lot of political campaigns. But let's really, Uber invented a better mousetrap. I don't go on the road in the middle of a snowstorm hoping that that taxi driver will flag me down. I know who I'm driving with. I don't have to exchange cash flow. And they created a mousetrap the taxi industry didn't, because the taxi industry had a monopoly. And that's what happens with disruptors. And so the monopoly tries to say, let's go back to the way we used to be. But I think if you, public opinion, you'd say to both the drivers and the people that use Uber, it is a better service. So what the taxi industry should do is focus on improving theirs and creating that level of competition that's good for consumers, because when you do that, the prices go down and the service goes up.
Interesting. Let's shift the conversation to toy retailer Mastermind now. Their legal woes continue, and they just laid off almost 300 employees. They're citing COVID-19, the pandemic, and the worsening economy as well. Talk to us more about what could be driving this.
Well, it's a great example of negative news. First of all, everybody would have been laid off if somebody hadn't stepped in and bought a company that was going bankrupt. This is a private equity play. They overexpanded. They really didn't understand the toy business, and so they failed. And so they had to literally foreclose. Joe Mimran comes in and buys the business. He says, I'm going to get rid of the 18 stores that really do not make sense. This guy's one of the smartest retail guys in Canada. I mean, this is Joe Fresh. And this is Club Monaco. You know, this is a brilliant guy. He says, I can't take these 18 stores on. I'm sorry you're going to lose your job. But the other 600 employees, I want you to come with me. We still have a job, and we're going to reinvent Mastermind. We're going to bring in made in Canada toys, new creativity, and new energy. So I think what we should focus on is the fact that this just didn't go into the ashes and a bunch of people come in insolvency and pick up the crumbs at a bargain. But what we're seeing is the chance that Mastermind, in fact, might be a great Canadian brand that not only expands within Canada, but knowing Joe Mimran, he's got his eyes on taking that brand outside of Canada. And that's why we've got to celebrate great entrepreneurs in this country, because Joe Mimran's one of the best of the best.
I do want to ask you about this, Tony. Do retailers like Mastermind even stand a chance in the world of Amazon? I mean, how tough is it to compete against companies like that?
Fantastic question. You got to shift from being a place to buy, because actually I can buy everything in the world on my phone through Amazon, to the place to be. With Mastermind, come in, we'll gift wrap your packaging. We've got toys you won't find anywhere else. You're confused. I don't know what to get my nephew. He's 9 years old. I mean, what do I get? They got the solutions for you. See, they got passionate people that are toy experts. You want to be in physical retail nowadays, stand for and stand out. Mastermind actually does it really well. The problem wasn't the premise of the store. The problem was, again, private equity that got greedy and they thought they could just expand like crazy. And that's not what when you're a store that's so specialized, it's a little seed you got to grow and nurture. And I think that's what we're going to see with Mimran. And I do think they have stand a fighting chance. And if you're out there, shop there, because you're putting your money back into Canada and the Canadian economy.
All right, Tony Chapman, host of the podcast Chatter That Matters. Thank you for providing insight in all
Thank
of this
you.
craziness that's happening.
All right.